good morning and welcome. Thank you for joining us today for the next webinar in Bedrock's What's New series. In today's webinar, we'll cover some of the newest features in Microsoft 365 that you can implement in your business, as well as covering some brand new features that will give us a bit of insight into the future of what's coming up from Microsoft in the next few years and where the future of tech could be taking us. Don't feel like you need to take any notes or take it all in straight away, as we'll be sending out a recording of this webinar and a follow-up fact sheet after the webinar itself. Also, if you have any questions throughout the webinar, please feel free to drop them into the Q&A box at the side, and I'll do my best to answer them as we go along if they're relevant to the topic we're talking about, or there'll also be a dedicated time for questions and answers at the end. Today's webinar will be slightly different from normal, as we'll be talking about some features that don't even have a date where they'll be going live. So there's some kind of discussion elements that we could do just to see what you make of the new features that Microsoft are planning in the years to come. Let's take a look at the agenda. So in today's webinar, we'll be covering live transcripts for unscheduled Teams meetings, improvements to Teams breakout rooms, Teams meeting lighting corrections, new hybrid working features coming to Outlook, and updates from Microsoft Ignite. So that's the element there, which because Microsoft Ignite is happening literally as we speak this week, there are some brand new features fresh off the press that we can discuss and see if you think you could see them happening in the future of your workplace. Finally, we'll be looking at what's next and how you could go about implementing some of these new features within your business. I wanted to start with a welcome to some of the new faces that we've got with us today. My name's Jennifer Benge and I'm the marketing manager at Bedrock. Please bear with us, obviously, for this introduction. I can see there's also some very familiar faces that join us on this webinar regularly. So thank you for joining us again. And I'm just going to do a quick intro for those who haven't met us before. Bedrock is a managed IT service provider and Microsoft partner. This means that most of the tech we implement is based on the Microsoft stack. This includes Microsoft 365, Teams, Azure, SharePoint, etc. The most important thing we want to achieve is to help your business grow better. We do this with the help of our 8 rocks. These 8 rocks include quality of service, security, backup, data, skills, investment, strategy, and collaboration. Collaboration is the one we'll be mostly focusing on today, as we're talking about some of Microsoft's biggest collaboration tools in Microsoft 365 and Microsoft Teams. So let's have a look at the live transcript option, which is now available for unscheduled and ad hoc Teams meetings. For ad hoc meetings, you'll be able to download the transcript from the chat screen after the meeting. So this is really useful. It's something that we've been able to do for scheduled meetings for quite some time now, where if you set a meeting to record, it will automatically also give you a transcript of what's said in that meeting. Up until now, you haven't been able to do that for ad hoc phone calls, just as they come in randomly if they're not in your diary. But the good news is that you can now. To enable this feature, just all you need to do is make sure that the allow transcription policy is turned on, and it will be available to you from today. This is really useful if suddenly you're getting loads of information in a call and you want to make sure you don't miss anything, but you also want to remain engaged in the call itself. So for example, if you're suddenly getting lots of information about a project that you need to work on and agenda items that you need to make sure are fulfilled, you don't need to miss anything during the live meeting by trying to scribble everything down as you go. You can just turn on the transcription option and Teams will create that transcription for you, and you'll be able to follow up after the meeting or after the ad hoc call. Moving on to the next item, we've got improvements to Teams breakout rooms. I'm not sure if anyone can let me know if you're already using breakout rooms at all and what you use them for in particular. That would be really good to know. The improvements that we're talking about here are that there are a few updates that you should be able to start using straight away, and they'll make the management of the breakout rooms much easier. A meeting organizer can now extend the management of breakout rooms to presenters. By taking control from breakout rooms management panel, the appointed presenters will be able to perform the breakout room operations as managers or meeting organizers, and they'll be able to join rooms as a breakout room manager. So this just lifts some of the pressure off of the meeting organisers' shoulders. It's not one person trying to organise multiple different breakout rooms and be there to answer everyone's questions in each room all at the same time. Note that only participants who are named as presenters can be appointed as breakout room managers. So you'll just need to do that in advance of the meeting. When you're inviting everyone to the meeting itself, just make sure that those people that you want to be breakout room managers are listed on the invite as presenters, and then they will have the ability to take control of those breakout meeting rooms. Sticking with the breakout rooms in Teams meetings, organisers can now perform breakout room configurations and assign tasks for participants before the meeting starts via the Teams desktop app. Again, such a handy feature. You wonder why it hasn't been there before, perhaps, because it just stops you getting flustered and trying to get everything organised while the live meeting itself is happening. If you can plan everything in advance. You can create rooms in bulk, add or delete individual rooms, configure meeting options, adjust session settings like the timer, for example, in the breakout rooms, and pre-assign participants via both manual and automatic assignment options. So if you wanted to split people into specific groups that you already have an idea of the names you want in each group, that's absolutely possible. You can do that. An example of why you might want to do that, I'm thinking if you wanted to make sure that you've got a good mixture of more junior staff and more experienced staff in each group, and you don't have sort of loads of newbies stuck in on their own, wondering what to do, you can plan that out in advance. If that's not so important, you can just leave it to the automatic sorting option, and Teams will just divide everyone equally into those breakout rooms, and that will all happen for you in advance. Here's a feature that isn't actually available quite yet, but will be coming very soon. Automatic lighting corrections for Teams meetings. This will help you show up well in video on meetings where there are low environments, low lighting level environments. Lighting corrections will be available in the coming months. So it's something we don't have an exact date for yet, but we do know it will be coming very soon. This could be useful for people who don't have a good quality camera on their laptop or an external webcam. Or it could just be useful for evening out the differences caused by daylight changes. So, for example, at the moment where the clocks have just gone back in the UK, by the time we're doing late afternoon meetings, we're relying on lights in the room, and that can cause shadows over your face. It's sometimes easier if you have a light balancing option on the camera that can just help you present yourself as you would want to appear, and that will just help you present your best self during your meetings. You can see that the option to adjust lighting settings will appear in the video preview at the start of a call, and you can select the lighting correction from there. So in the similar bar to where you would pick a background, for example, under your video, you click the settings button, a pop-up bar will appear to the side, and that's where you can select lighting correction options. You can see in the image on the screen there, I've just dropped in an image of how the lighting correction would look. So the camera feed that's in the Teams preview screen, that's the unedited option, and on top of that, dropped on there, is the edited version with the lighting correction. So that's the kind of difference that you could make just with that lighting corrections. It's not going to make you a supermodel. I don't think we would want it to. It'd be a bit strange, but it would just help you present yourself in the best possible way. Another update that will be coming soon is new features in Outlook to capture details about when and where teammates are working and how they will join meetings. So this is something that I've noticed a lot in a lot of the updates coming soon to Microsoft 365. There is a massive focus on tools that can help us work in this new hybrid environment. So when you've got some people working in the office and some people working from home. The redesigned working hours option will allow you to include a work schedule and the specifics of that directly in your calendar, so others will know when and where you're working. The new RSVP feature lets people specify whether they will attend a meeting in person or online, so the meeting planners can prepare by booking the right room size or by organising a room with video conferencing facilities to allow everybody to connect on the same level, whether they're in the office itself or outside of the office working from home. The new hybrid work experiences in Outlook will start rolling out early next year. So let's just play that video again to show you an example of how this could work. Here's your Outlook diary. You would go to update work status, and you can see you can update working hours along with the days that you'd be working remotely, and update that status so it appears in your calendar for others to see. Then when you're replying to a meeting request, you can select whether you'll be attending online or in person, as well as if you're the one putting out the meeting request, you can specify whether you would like people to appear online or in person. These are just all useful features that help us move gradually into that world of hybrid working. Okay, moving on now. So we've so far covered a couple of features that are available immediately that you can start working with straight away. A couple of features that will be coming very, very soon within the next couple of months. Now we'll be looking at some of the features that have been discussed at Microsoft Ignite this week, which are more of a long-term roadmap of where the world of work could be going. Microsoft Ignite is an annual conference for developers and IT professionals, and it's hosted by Microsoft. It's taking place this week, so literally these are some of the very, very newest features that we're going to cover, and they've been announced so far. So some of them, I think that most of these came from Tuesday's conference. Again, none of the following options have been given a fixed release updates yet, but I wanted to cover them just to give us all an idea of the Microsoft roadmap and what we can expect at some point coming up. And just to give you an idea as well of maybe your planning, your strategy going forwards. Could these things be built into your ongoing strategy? Are they too far down the line for you? And just basically because some of them are pretty cool and it's always good to learn about interesting tech coming up. So starting with Microsoft Loop. Microsoft Loop is the new branding for Microsoft's Fluid Framework, which are blocks of collaborative Office content that can live independently and be copied, pasted, and shared with others. Split down into three parts: Loop Components, Loop Pages, and Loop Workspaces. Loop Components are live pieces of content that can exist across multiple apps, updated in real time and free for anyone to jump onto. So this is a tricky concept to understand, but I liken it most to, for example, if you shared a web link with someone. Once you've shared that web link, the data within their web page can still be updated. And whenever that person clicks on the web link, they'll see the latest up-to-date information. Loop components are very similar to that, apart from you'll see the entire piece of work that the person is talking about. So as an example, you could have a table that's been made in Loop components. You could share that table across a Word document, across an Outlook email, in a Teams site, and that table will always be up to date, no matter who's looking at it and no matter where they're looking at it. It will always be live. Loop workspaces are almost like a project board, where you can see a list of all Loop components and Loop pages and who is currently working on them. I have to say, when I first saw this on Tuesday, my immediate thought was it looks very similar to an app called Notion, which I think Microsoft may have been more than a little inspired by. This new layout, I think it will be a nice way to work. Obviously, we don't have a huge amount of demos of it at the moment, and we haven't been able to get our hands on it to play with it ourselves. But it's an example of really good collaborative working where everyone can access a single page like this project overview, and you can see on there, as this GIF is showing you, you can see everybody who's working on that document at the same time, which area of the document they're in. You can also see there are links to the section there called Important Stuff, where you can drop in the exact documents that people might need that are related to that project. So everything to do with this project is on one page and everybody can collaborate on it. There's a little bit more information here about how the Loop components work. So here's a Loop page. Loop pages are the individual canvases where people can share and collaborate on Loop components. It's like a modern version of a whiteboard, but far more powerful because you can insert and share components that have been created outside of Loop. Not everyone even needs to be part of the entire loop page, as the individual components could be edited in real time from other apps. So you could have one person who needs a full overview of the project, and they are gaining information from all kinds of different teams throughout the business. In terms of the look of Loop, I think the tech behind it and the utilization will be really good. I can definitely see a use case where we would be using that within Bedrock ourselves to manage projects and just to keep everyone on board and on the same page about what's going on within each project. I'm not sure who's going to spend a lot of time adding emojis and pretty pictures. That's not something we generally have time to do, and I'm not sure the market that they're trying to sort of appeal to with all the emojis and colours on this Loop demo. But we'll have to see what Loop actually ends up looking like once it's in existence. You can see here in this part of the GIF, this is an example of a Loop component. So this table can be dropped into a Teams site, into an email, and wherever else you wanted it. So you could drop it into another document as well. And like I said earlier, wherever that component goes, it will always be up to date, even after you've sent that email. So you could drop that table into an email, send it to someone else, and it will update itself automatically if someone has added new information. So that will cut out a lot of work, I think, in terms of going backwards and forwards, checking that you've got the latest information. You'll just know that you do have the latest, most up-to-date information. Sort of continuing on from Loop, we have a new feature called ContextIQ that was also announced on Tuesday. Many of the features of ContextIQ focus on the Microsoft 365 sphere in areas like finding files and users to insert into communications, or finding calendar times, and incorporating data into Teams or the new Microsoft Loop. In the instance shown in this image, ContextIQ is suggesting content to be pulled in from CRM Dynamics, which is Microsoft's CRM system, but it can pull in data from a whole range of places. So again, this kind of fits in with the whole Microsoft push for flexible working. Everything they're doing is contributing towards you being able to work in a constant flow. You're not, they don't want you to be writing an email, then having to go to a different file system to drag and drop an email, a file that you would like to share within that email. They want everything to be done within the flow of what you're writing. So, like I said earlier, in this example, it's showing how you can drop in content from Dynamics CRM. But you could also use it to tag people, which you can already do in Microsoft 365. This will be a kind of extension on that. You can also do it to tag in files that are part of the content you're talking about or relevant to the content you're talking about. So rather than finishing your email, then going to find the link to the content, to the document you want to attach to that email, you literally just put the @ and it will suggest the documents that are most relevant. It uses AI to do this, so it should be able to suggest the documents that are most relevant to the content you've written, but obviously there are manual ways to drop in the content you would like to include as well. I'm really excited to see this come along. I think, again, if it works, if we can all get this working properly, it will be a great time saver, and it will be one of those things we may look back on this in 5 years' time and think, I can't believe there was a time where we weren't working like that. Oh, finally, with ContextIQ, it will also be able to suggest meeting times that suit everybody. So, for example, if you were emailing a whole group of people and you wanted to suggest a meeting within the next few days, or you give a specific time, so let's meet on Thursday afternoon, the AI technology will be able to look into everyone's calendars, who is a contact on that email, and then suggest a time that suits everybody within that flow of the email. Again, a massive time saver. It's quite similar to, I don't know if any of you were on our webinar a few months ago where we talked about this new scheduler app, which helps you to schedule emails in the same way by suggesting times when everybody's free that you need. It'll work in a very similar way where you can just build that into your email. Again, no dates when this will actually be live, but we're hoping that this will come along soon so we can have a good look at it. Okay, if you thought things were already a bit strange, let's move on to Microsoft Mesh. So Meta may be grabbing most of the metaverse headlines for now. Facebook's new metaverse, plunge into the metaverse, but it's far from the only company that's exploring how we can experience virtual events across a variety of devices. Microsoft on Tuesday at Ignite launched Microsoft Mesh for Teams. This will allow you to connect and collaborate in person through a virtual reality. I'm just wondering if anyone's happy to chat. Could you even imagine your Teams meetings looking like this in the future? It seems very far off, but the conversations that have been coming out recently, it seems like it's something that is on the roadmap and could actually happen. It's not kind of dream world stuff anymore. It could be reality pretty soon. In addition to avatars that you can see in this Teams image here, Mesh for Teams will also include pre-built immersive spaces to hang out virtually. Microsoft says companies will eventually be able to design spaces for themselves, allowing them to reflect their actual offices. So you'll be able to meet as an avatar within your virtual reality office. Again, it's something, even if the technology suddenly comes out next year and allows us to do this, I don't see it becoming mainstream for a long time, because obviously it will involve investment into VR headsets, a lot of changes to get people on board. But you know, I'm sure some companies will be the first to leap on it and jump into this virtual reality world. So it'll be interesting to see what happens when Microsoft Mesh for Teams is fully released. Got an example here of the video feed of how Microsoft Mesh for Teams could work within that virtual workspace. Strangely enough, we don't have legs apparently when we're in virtual reality, so we can wave goodbye to those. But yeah, that's an example of how we would build that virtual reality into a virtual workspace. I can see someone's joined in with the discussion. Not sure why we would have an avatar rather than a camera picture. I have to say I agree with you, especially because over the last year or so, we have got used to working with our cameras on. And I think there's an element of we've got used to seeing everyone when they're not always looking their best. You know, it's real life. It's not a surprise if suddenly you see someone's children walk in behind, and it's not a big deal. So I don't see avatars as being necessary to hide behind for this new metaverse virtual reality world. So it'll be interesting to see if people do pick them up, or like you say, if we do just stick with our camera view, especially as obviously these avatars are being built on very quickly. They're becoming very good in the technology they can do, but they're never going to quite match up to real life faces that you can see. So yeah, as I said, we've got no date for when this is going to happen, but it's always good to keep an eye on where Microsoft is going and all the other tech companies as well, and perhaps look at where we might build that into the future. So coming back to reality for now, we're not going to suggest that you immediately implement virtual reality anytime soon, but we can improve your IT strategy. We've devised a simple way to gain board level consensus on what's important, what can be fixed right now, and where you need a plan for your IT. Bedrock conduct IT strategic reviews to give you the facts that you need to make a positive change, whether that's to drive adoption of new technology, hire an internal lead, or brief a technology provider that you want to work with. It doesn't have to be Bedrock, it could be someone else. We also do that so you can renegotiate with your current suppliers, just so you know what IT you need to make a difference within your organisation. We work with CEOs to figure out where the gaps might be in their current setup and then map technology onto their business needs. The Bedrock Maturity Index that we then provide for you shows how the technology is supporting the business goals. So we've got a little bit of time for Q&A, or indeed some more discussion around that virtual reality, or the Microsoft Loop, or any of that we've got. I can see one from Hamad. Any good accessibility features? I'm guessing you mean in terms of Microsoft Teams. I know that there are some really good accessibility features that have come out recently in terms of For visually impaired people, you can change how they see the screen by changing the colours, so it makes it easier to read. You can also add in sign language interpreter feeds for hearing impaired people, and also some of the transcription options, live transcription, also allow you to have different languages, so you can translate on the go. So all of those are really good accessibility features. I'm not sure if those were the ones you meant, but we can look at those in further detail in a later webinar if that would be of interest. Just looking at some of the other questions we've got coming in. I'm really pleased that presenters will be able to manage breakout rooms. Is it possible to set a task, e.g. the question to be considered? So that comes up when you put people in the breakout room. Yes, that is definitely possible. That's one of the new features that has been updated with this new rollout of the breakout room features. So in advance of the meeting, you'll be able to set groups. So you can set which group goes into which breakout room and assign them in advance the tasks that you want them to do within those rooms as well. So that just saves a lot of hassle and a lot of time wasting at the beginning of the meeting. You can just straight away split the people into their breakout rooms and set them going with the task you want them to do. Any news of rollout of Cameo for PowerPoint Live or Teams? Okay, so Cameo is the new feature that is coming to Microsoft PowerPoint Live within Teams, which actually allows you to completely embed your video feed into the presentation that you're giving. So a few months ago, we looked at some of the new presenter options. So you can have standout presenter mode where you're in front of your presentation, or side by side and reporting mode, which allow you to make yourself closer to the PowerPoint you're presenting. Cameo actually allows you to put yourself straight into the PowerPoint itself. The last I heard on that was that is another one that's coming very soon, so within the next couple of months, along with the lighting options and Outlook options we looked at today. I don't have a fixed date for it that I know of, but if I will have a quick check afterwards and let you know, I'll get back to you by email if we do have a fixed date when that will be available for you. Perhaps we should look at Cameo in greater detail for next month's webinar as well, because I think that would be of interest to a lot of people, as we've covered all the other standout presenter options as well. Okay, I think we've covered all the questions that we had come in so far. Obviously, if you want to follow up with any other questions once you've had the time to think about this presentation, feel free to email me. You'll be able to contact me just by replying to the email that you were sent with the registration details. And I would look forward to seeing you again at our next webinar. So we're going to just drop the link into the chat now so that you can sign up for the next webinar, and we'll see you again in December. So the next one is on the 9th of December. Register now, and we will send out the specific agenda closer to the time when we know what the newest features are that we'll be discussing. So thank you again for joining us today, and I look forward to seeing you again soon.